So there I was. I'm doom scrolling. As one does when you should probably be doing literally anything healthier. I'm just out here trying to mind my business, maybe catch a couple of cooking videos, maybe watch somebody restore an old Game Boy Color, maybe see a raccoon steal a hot dog off a porch. Normal internet shit. And then out of nowhere, the algorithm looks me dead in the face and says, "No, Nate, today you're gonna suffer." Because up pops this TikTok from a woman named Petty Crocker. And right there, before the video even started, I should have known I was in trouble. Because that is not a real person name. That is the name of a supervillain who specializes in misinformation and undercooked cornbread. That is not a username. That is a threat. That is the kind of name where you hear it and immediately assume somewhere, somehow, a perfectly good fact just got dragged out back and shot. So I'm already cautious. I'm already bracing myself. And then she hits me with this absolute masterpiece of algorithmic asbestos. Artemis II is fake because we never landed on the moon to begin with, so we aren't landing this time. We're doing a drive-by, but we really aren't because we've never even been to space to begin with, like Katy Perry has never been to space either, and anyone who believes that is a bunch of booger-eating liars. Now, listen. Sometimes you hear something so aggressively stupid, your brain doesn't reject it immediately. It just kind of blue screens. Like your internal processor looks at the sentence, looks back at you, and goes, "I actually don't know what to do with this." Because that is not just one bad argument. That is a value meal. That is a sampler platter. That is a 6-layer bean dip of bullshit. We started at the moon landing was fake, took a hard left into Artemis II is fake, then drove straight through space itself isn't real, and for some reason on the way out caught Katy Perry with a stray. Katy Perry. What did Katy Perry do besides be in the wrong sentence at the wrong time? You know what? Don't answer that. Imagine just waking up, pouring your coffee, checking your phone, and finding out you've been folded into a moon hoax rant for no damn reason. And then to close it all out after this buffet of delusion, she calls everyone who disagrees with her booger-eating liars. Which is honestly kind of beautiful in a trash fire sort of way, because once you have reached elementary school lunch insult territory, the debate is over. We are no longer in the realm of evidence. We are back on the playground in the 1990s. Next step is somebody calling somebody a doo-doo head and then running off to the swing sets. And that, my friends, is when I knew we had ourselves a full-blown CTRL ALT DELUSION episode. Because this one is special. This isn't just, I have questions. This isn't harmless curiosity. This is the internet's favorite disease. Being unbelievably, aggressively, chest-out confident while being catastrophically wrong. And not wrong in a little way, not, hey, you got one date mixed up. No. Wrong in the kind of way where the statement itself should come with hazard lights and a backup alarm. So today, we are doing what we do best. We're going to break this thing apart piece by piece. We are going to roast it within an inch of its life, and in between the jokes, we are going to talk about why nonsense like this spreads so well, why people fall for it, and why I did my research now apparently means I watched 3 TikToks while sitting on the shitter. Because, my friends, if we have reached the point where people are saying we have never even been to space, not the moon, not Mars, not I have concerns about this mission, but space as a concept, then yeah, we gotta talk. Hey, and welcome to, or welcome back to, the Average Joe Nerdcast. I'm Nate, your resident average Joe, your friendly neighborhood overthinker, and today, apparently, your emergency response team for space denial brain rot. And this right here is another special episode of Control Alt Delusion, the part of the show where we take conspiracy logic, bad faith confidence, internet bullshit, and whatever else the algorithm coughed up this week, and we put it on the operating table. Not because skepticism is bad, let me just say that up front. Questioning things, that's good. Curiosity, also good. Wanting receipts before you believe something, very, very good. That is not what this is. This is not healthy skepticism. This is somebody walking into the middle of a football game screaming that football isn't real, the stadium is an illusion, the scoreboard is propaganda, and anyone who disagrees eats paste. At that point, I'm not dealing with a truth seeker. I'm dealing with a performance. And that's what a lot of this stuff is nowadays. Not investigation, not discovery, just performance. It's confidence theater. It's saying something loud enough, smug enough, and with enough attitude that people mistake your certainty for evidence. And man, social media loves that because the algorithm doesn't care whether you're right. It cares whether you're engaging, whether people stitch it, share it, scream about it, comment, wake up, send it to their cousin, and build an entire personality around distrusting anything with a logo on it. So the perfect social media conspiracy take is not the smartest one. It's just the simplest one. Short sentence, big attitude, no nuance, bonus points if you can say it in a way that makes anyone who disagrees sound like an idiot. And Petty Crocker, Lord help us, understood that assignment. Because that quote is almost scientifically engineered for virality. It's got the moon landing, it's got NASA, it's got Artemis II, it's got we've never even been to space, it's got random celebrity collateral damage, and it ends with an insult that sounds like it was workshopped by a fourth grader who just discovered the word liar. It is dumb, but it is efficiently dumb, and that's why it spreads. Now, before we get into the roasting, and oh, we will, let's at least lay down one basic thing so we're all standing on the same floor before this woman tries to saw it out from under us. Artemis II is not a moon landing mission. It is NASA's crewed lunar flyby mission designed as a deep space test flight around the moon ahead of later lunar surface missions. And yes, the United States did in fact land astronauts on the moon during the Apollo program. 6 times between 1969 and 1972. NASA also still uses lunar laser ranging science based on retroreflectors placed on the moon during the Apollo missions. So even before we get fancy, even before we start really cooking, the quote is already stepping on rakes. Because the first half of it gets Artemis II wrong, the second half of it gets Apollo wrong, and the finale just gets space wrong. That is generational hating. That is an all-time box score. That is going 0 for 3 and then arguing with the stadium lights. So here's what we're gonna do. First, I want to read this quote one more time, slowly, like we're analyzing an ancient cursed text found in a tomb somewhere. Think the Necronomicon. And then we're going to take each part of it apart like a busted lawnmower, because I need you to hear how ridiculous it sounds when you let it breathe. Not rushed, not clipped for engagement, not surrounded by dramatic music and comments from other people who think the moon is a Hollywood screensaver. Just the words, raw, out in the open, where they have to survive contact with common sense. And spoiler alert, they won't. So let's do this properly, because I don't want to strawman this. I don't want to exaggerate it. I don't want to twist it. Let's take it exactly as it was said, and we're going to walk through it like adults. Well, like adults who are about to laugh. A lot. Artemis II is fake because we never landed on the moon to begin with. So we aren't landing this time. We're doing a drive-by. But we really aren't because we've never been to space to begin with. Like Katy Perry has never been to space either. And anyone who believes that is a bunch of booger-eating liars. Okay, let's start at the top. Right out of the gate, we're stacking claims, not proving one, not building an argument, just stacking. Artemis II is fake. Cool. Why? Because we never landed on the moon. That's not evidence. That's just another claim wearing a trench coat. And here's the issue with that. If your argument depends on another argument that also needs proof, you don't have a foundation. You have a house built on vibes. And we already talked about this. Apollo 11 wasn't a one-off fluke. The Apollo program itself had 6 successful moon landings. So this whole first sentence is basically, this thing is fake because that thing was fake. And we're just supposed to nod along like, yeah, okay, that tracks. No, because it doesn't track. It never even left the fucking station. Now here's where it gets funny, because for one brief, shining moment, she accidentally tells the truth. Artemis II is a flyby. That is literally the mission. We go around the moon, test systems, then bring her on home. So she says, we're not landing. We're doing a drive-by. And I'm sitting there like, yes. Oh, thank God. Yes, you are. That is correct. You ever watch somebody almost get the answer right? Like they are right there. They've got it. And then they just panic and hit the wrong button anyway? That's this moment right here. Because instead of going, oh, okay, well, that makes sense, she immediately pivots to, but we really aren't because we've never been to space. We skipped a level. We went from moon landing is fake to space isn't real. That's not a step forward. That's a suicide leap off a cliff. So let's think this through for just half a second. If we've never been to space, then what exactly are we doing right now with, oh, I don't know, GPS, weather satellites, live broadcasts, satellite internet? Because all of that depends on stuff orbiting Earth, like the International Space Station, which, again, you can see with your eyes. No special equipment needed, no government clearance, just look up at the right time. So now the conspiracy has expanded from nobody went to the moon to everything above the sky is fake and we're all just, I don't know, pretending? That's not a theory anymore. That's a lifestyle. Then, Katy Perry has never been to space either. Why? Why is Katy Perry involved? Nobody brought her up. Nobody even asked. There is no version of this conversation where Katy Perry needed to be cited as evidence. This is like arguing about dinosaurs and going, and another thing, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has never ridden a Tyrannosaurus. We know. Also, who is claiming she went to space? Did I miss that press release? Was there a secret mission where Katy Perry was just floating around singing Firework in zero gravity? This is what happens when your argument runs out of gas. You just start grabbing random shit off the shelf. And pause. Let me be fair here. Because in the middle of all of this chaos, there is a twist. Katy Perry actually has been to space. Back in 2025, she flew on a Blue Origin suborbital mission, crossed the Kármán line, which is about 62 miles straight up, which, for all intents and purposes, does count. So now the argument somehow got even worse. Because Petty Crocker said Katy Perry has never been to space either, and reality said, oh, she absolutely did. So now we've reached a new level of wrong where not only is NASA fake, not only is the moon fake, not only is space fake, but the one random example you pulled in to support your point is also incorrect. Now that's impressive. That's like missing the target and then missing the miss. Also, can we just take a second to appreciate the timeline? We live in a world where pop stars are taking suborbital flights. Private companies are launching rockets. You can literally watch launches live from your cell phone. And somehow the conclusion is still, nah, none of this is real. That's like standing in the rain, getting absolutely drenched, and going, water isn't real. So yeah, Katy Perry catching strays, and somehow still being more factually accurate than the argument she got dragged into. And then for the last bit, booger-eating liars. Ah yes, we've reached the final form. When all logic fails, when the structure collapses, when the argument is barely holding together with duct tape and hope, you deploy elementary school insults. Booger-eating liars. That's not a rebuttal. That's what you say when somebody cuts you in line for dodgeball. Does anyone still remember dodgeball? But here's the tell. When someone jumps to insults this fast, it usually means they don't have anything left. Because if you had evidence, you'd use it. Instead, we got you're wrong because I said so, and also you eat boogers. Devastating. Truly. I don't know how NASA recovers from that one. So let's recap what we just heard. Artemis II is fake, based on another unproven claim. The moon landing didn't happen despite overwhelming evidence. Space itself isn't real despite literally everything about modern technology. Katy Perry, for whatever reason. And then, playground insults. That's not an argument. That's a freestyle. That's someone grabbing ideas midair and hoping they land. And the wild part, people hear that and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. And that right there, that reaction, that's what we need to talk about next. Because the real question isn't just, how is this wrong? It's, why does this work on people? So since we've officially established that entire take, cooked, burnt, left in the oven with the timer off. But here's the thing. If it were just one random bad take floating around the internet, we wouldn't be here. The reason we're even talking about this is because this kind of stuff doesn't just exist. It spreads like a virus. And not just spreads, it thrives. Because if it didn't, you wouldn't have thousands of likes, comment sections full of wake up, people nodding along like this is breaking news. So the real question isn't why is this wrong, because we've already handled that. The real question is, why does this sound right to some people? And the answer is uncomfortable because it's not about intelligence. It's about how information feels. And we'll call it the confidence over facts problem. Have you ever noticed this? The more wrong someone is, the more confident they sound. Meanwhile, people who actually know what they're talking about will say things like, well, based on current data, or there's a strong evidence to suggest, or it's likely that. They leave room because real knowledge has nuance. But Petty Crocker rolls up like, space is fake and you eat boogies. No hesitation, no doubt, no wiggle room. And to a brain that's just scrolling, that confidence feels like truth. Because your brain goes, well, they don't sound unsure. Yeah, because they didn't do enough thinking to become unsure. Now layer that with social media. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, they don't reward accuracy or depth or careful explanation. They reward engagement, emotion, or reactions. So, what do you think performs better? A scientist calmly explaining orbital mechanics, or someone going, NASA lied and you're all idiots? I'm sure you already know the answer. Because one makes you think while the other makes you react, and reaction spreads faster than truth every single time. And here's another big one: reality, it is complicated. Space travel, complicated. Radiation exposure, complicated. Orbital mechanics, very, very complicated. But conspiracy takes, they're simple. Moon landing fake, space fake, everything fake. That's easy. That fits in one sentence. That feels clean. And your brain loves clean, even if it's wrong. Because your brain would rather have a simple wrong answer than a very complicated but truthful one. And then we get this: people start building narratives. Well, if this is fake, then that must be fake. And if that's fake, then everything is fake. And suddenly you've gone from, I have a question about NASA, to reality is just optional. That's how you end up with, we've never even been to space. Not because there's evidence, but because it fits the story that they have built. And this part right here matters, because a lot of this isn't about the truth at all. It's all about attention, identity, or being the person who knows something that others just don't. There's a certain appeal to being the one who goes, y'all are sheep, but I see what's really going on. And that feels powerful, even if it's completely detached from reality, because now you're not just a person scrolling TikTok, you're the main character in a secret truth narrative. And that right there is addictive. So when you see a take like this, it's not just misinformation, it's confidence, simplicity, performance, and an algorithm that pushes all of it to the very top. And when all of that combines, you get someone looking into a camera saying we've never been to space, dragging Katy Perry into it and calling everyone else booger eaters. And people believe it. That's the part we should actually be worried about. So now that we understand why this stuff spreads, we need to go back and really start cooking these arguments one by one, because it's time for a little something I like to call a countdown. But first, a quick word from one of our brand new sponsors. And we should probably listen to what they have to say, because clearly, I've been doing research wrong my entire life. Are you tired of so-called experts telling you things like, evidence matters, facts exist? Please stop yelling at astrophysicists online. Do you wish you could be 100% confident with 0% understanding? Then it's time to enroll in Petty Crocker's School of Advanced Research. At Petty Crocker's, we believe learning should be fast, loud, and completely detached from reality. Why spend years studying science when you can watch 3 TikToks and spiritually arrive at the truth? Featured courses include Van Allen belts. Sounds scary. Must be fatal. If it has a complicated name, it's probably impossible. That's just science. Apollo 11, vibes-based debunking. Learn how to ignore decades of data and instead ask, but did it feel real though? Satellite Denial 101. Master the art of claiming space isn't real while actively using space-based technology. Advanced insult deployment. When logic fails, unleash phrases like booger-eating liar, doo-doo head. Graduate benefits include maximum confidence, minimum knowledge, a comment section full of wake up replies. Enroll today and receive a free starter kit including one ring light, one aggressively incorrect opinion, and a Wi-Fi connection you swear isn't real. Petty Crocker's School of Advanced Research. If it sounds right, it is right. Now, back to the show. All right, let's get back to it. Because now that we've talked about how this nonsense spreads, it's time to go hands-on. We're gonna be doing a countdown, because if we're gonna deal with this, we might as well have some fun with it. These are the arguments that come up every single time. Different videos, but same talking points. So let's break them down, one by one. At number 5, the flag was waving. The classic. The flag is moving, there's no wind on the moon, therefore fake. First of all, it's not waving like it's at a football game. The flag had a horizontal rod to keep it extended, and when the astronauts planted it, it moved. And because there's no atmosphere, there's nothing to dampen that motion. So it keeps moving longer than you'd expect. But conspiracy brain sees movement and goes, ah yes, moon wind. NASA, vacuum of space. TikTok, nah, that's a breeze. Number 4, there are no stars in the photos. And I love this one. No stars in the background. Must be fake. Or, and just hear me out, the camera exposure was set for a bright surface. The moon is reflecting sunlight like crazy, so the camera adjusts, and faint stars don't show up. You know, that's how cameras work. That's like saying I took a picture of a street light and I can't see the night sky, so space equals fake. No, your camera just can't do both at once. Number 3, the shadows don't line up. The shadows look weird, must be studio lighting. Yeah, because the moon isn't a flat fucking parking lot. It's uneven terrain with one giant light source. And I'll give you a hint as to what that light source is. The sun! And there's no atmosphere. So shadows stretch, distort, and look different. But instead of going, man, that is really interesting, we go, Hollywood. Yeah, dude. Stanley Kubrick just out there filming on location on the moon, set in Burbank. Number 2, the Van Allen belts would kill them. And there it is, the final boss of bad takes. The radiation belts would kill them instantly. No, they wouldn't. They're dangerous, yes, but NASA calculated the trajectories, minimized exposure time, and shielded the spacecraft. And astronauts passed through them quickly, multiple times. But TikTok hears radiation and goes, well, that sounds spooky, so it's impossible. And number 1, we've never even been to space. And here it is, the Petty Crocker special. Not just, we didn't go to the moon, but space isn't real. So let's just run that logic real quick. Satellites? Fake. GPS? Fake. Weather tracking? Fake. The International Space Station you can see with your own eyes? Fake. Meanwhile, you're using Google or Apple Maps. You're streaming Netflix or Hulu or Amazon. And then you're posting online. Powered by space. That's like saying electricity isn't real while charging your goddamn phone. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the top 5. Not just wrong, but confidently wrong. And the craziest part? These arguments have been debunked over and over and over again. And yet, here we are, still talking about them. So now the question becomes, if all of this has been explained before, If the information is readily available, if the evidence exists, why does it keep coming back? And more importantly, why do people keep falling for it? And here we are, coming up on the final stretch. I hope you've laughed. I know I have. We've had a lot of fun roasting. We've taken Petty Crocker's entire argument out back and beat it to death with a folding chair. But let's bring this down just a notch. Because there's something here that actually matters. This isn't really about the moon. It's not even really about NASA. It's about something much, much bigger. Because once you cross that line where you can look at overwhelming evidence, and I mean decades of it, global collaboration and independent verifications, and still go, it's fake. There's no anchor anymore. There's nothing left to ground you in reality. Because if the moon landing is fake and space is fake, then what isn't fake? And that's where this stuff gets dangerous. Because it doesn't stop at NASA. It spreads into science, medicine, history, basic shared reality. And suddenly we're not just disagreeing on opinions, we're disagreeing on stone cold facts. And that's a whole different world. And let me be clear about this, because this matters too. Skepticism is good. You should question things. You should want evidence. You should think critically. That's how we learn. But there is a difference between help me understand this and this is fake no matter what you show me. One is curiosity, while the other is a closed door. And once that door is closed, no amount of evidence is ever getting in. And I think a big part of this is that people don't want to feel wrong. Because being wrong feels like losing, and losing feels bad. It feels embarrassing. It feels like you got tricked. It feels like you have to admit, yeah, I missed that. But here's the truth. Being wrong is not the problem. Staying wrong is. Doubling down, ignoring evidence, calling people booger-eating liars instead of just engaging. That's where it becomes something else entirely. And at the end of the day, we're all living in the same world, the same sky, the same planet, the same reality. You cannot opt out of that. You can misunderstand it. You can question it. You can even deny parts of it. But it's still there, whether you believe in it or not. So when someone looks into a camera and says we've never even been to space, while using a device powered by satellites that are actively orbiting the planet we are all currently living on, I don't even get mad, man. I just sit there like, how in the fuck did we get here? And then I remember confidence, simplicity, the algorithm, and a whole lot of people who would rather feel right than actually be right. And that's it. If you made it all the way to the end of this one, thank you. If you laughed, if you learned something, if you now have a slightly lower tolerance for nonsense on your For You page, then do me a favor. Hit that follow button. Drop a 5-star review, especially on Apple and Spotify, because that stuff really does help the show grow. And if you've got that one friend, you know the one who sends you TikToks like, bro, what if gravity isn't real? Then send them this episode. Not to argue, just to, gently reintroduce them back to reality. And if you want to keep the conversation going, then please come hang out with us in the private Facebook group, Average Joe Nerdcast, The Lobby. That's where we drop extra content, do side quest Sundays, talk nerd culture, and occasionally collectively process takes just like this one. Because clearly, we need support groups now. I'll drop the link to the page in the show notes, or you can head straight over to Facebook and in the search bar just type Average Joe Nerdcast The Lobby, and you will find the page. Huge, huge shout out to My Player 2. And huge shout outs to everyone behind the scenes who keep this little ship of ours sailing into the all blue. And especially, huge shout out to all of you listening, sharing, and supporting the show. Y'all are the reason I get to do this, and I couldn't thank you enough. With that, don't forget, stay gold, nerd bold, and I'll catch you on the next one. Holy shit, Steve, where in the fuck have you been? You've been outside? What have you been doing outside? Just looking up? You can confirm that space is still there. Get the fuck out.
Game over.